Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Carlson. I hope you had a fantastic Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all you beautiful ladies out there that have nurtured and raised us and are still working on us if you're mothers of people our age or still working on the young kids and all the things that you do. We're blessed to have you. Obviously, we wouldn't be here without you. We sometimes don't recognize all the hard work that you put in to keep us going, but it is 100% appreciated. And we know that we couldn't do this without you. I'm really happy to be here today, enjoying my strangely warm coffee. I hope you have your cup too. Had a great Mother's Day weekend. I want to give a shout out to my friends over at CNC Plumbing, the Canaveries down in Lake Placid. I know a couple times I've forgotten, but I'm going to try and give a shout out to my friends and customers, family, whenever I can. CNC Plumbing down in Lake Placid. Give them a call for all your plumbing needs. Some of you have followed me or Jessica on social, and you've seen the transformation that's gone on in our master bathroom. CNC Plumbing, all the plumbing supplies, materials, everything. They did it, did a great job. Thank you, Teresa, Jean, everybody over there. We really appreciate everything that you did for us. Working, what is that? Oh, deadline next. The deadline was moved for your income tax returns from April 15th to May 17th. May 17th is now the deadline. That's a week from today. If you're in our queue already, we're scrambling to get you all done by hopefully by the end of the week. If you are in the process of sending us your stuff or haven't sent us your stuff yet, you will get an extension. We can still file extensions that push you out until October. So please go ahead and send your stuff over or shoot us an email or give us a call and ask us to file an extension for you to make sure that you get on the list. I think that's just about everything except this. I'm going to start off today with a general comment. You've probably already seen the description in my tagline, and I'm not trying to talk about this to cause or create any pain or anguish or hate out there. I just want to talk about the mechanics of this particular article and how it, in my opinion, and it's interesting this morning, I just noticed that they changed it a little bit, but how, in my opinion, they have, and I'm going to copy and paste this in the comments, so if anyone out there wants to take a look while I'm moving along here, you'll be able to see the article. I thought maybe it would get canceled if I put it anywhere, but I'm not doing it for anything other than I wanted to provide you with some actual information related to the Payroll Protection Loan Program and federal tax law and how this article tries to, in my opinion, divide us. And it's an interesting topic. I decided to do this as soon as I saw this article last week. I decided to pick this topic for today. And over the weekend, Jessica, my wife, asked what my favorite Bible verse was. And I thought about it a little bit, but I've never really put much thought into it. But if I had to think of one thing that I say more than anything else, and that I think is the simplest rule for all of us to follow, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Hindi, Buddha, Baha'i, whatever your faith is, I think this verse captures the essence of how I feel we should all treat one another. And that is Luke 6:31. That is the verse that says, do unto others, depending on the version, it doesn't necessarily read this way, but do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I don't think anything speaks more clearly how we should treat one another than that Bible verse. And I think about it all the time. If you want, hopefully you don't want someone to treat you poorly, so don't treat them poorly. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Thank you, Jessica, for putting that thought in my mind and making me actually put some thought into it. I might go a little over today. I ask that no one please leave any hateful or bad comments below. I will delete them immediately. And if it gets too bad, I might delete the video altogether. But I think this is very relevant. And I'm going to jump right in. I copied and pasted that article there, but I'm going to flip over to my other computer. And I want to show you this right here. You can see the headline. This headline right here. Rampant racial disparities plagued how PPP loans were distributed in the United States. Now, what I did when I initially read this article is I printed it to a PDF because I assumed that that article would change or be deleted. But the headline is what caught my attention, and I'm pretty sure I saw this on Drudge Report. I don't really read Drudge Report that much anymore, but I do look at it occasionally. I believe that's where I found this link. So this is the Los Angeles Times, in my opinion, trying to divide the country with information that's in the article that doesn't really get to the root of why these particular people were denied payroll protection loan funding. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't issues out there and that there may not be. I believe the statistics show that there are disparities across racial lines. I don't really look at things that way, so it's difficult for me to comprehend why we try to push that narrative. But in this instance, and the people that the Los Angeles Times chose to interview and talk about, that's really what I'm going to focus on. And the reasons that these people didn't get them were not because of their race, sex, color, gender, any of that stuff. It's because of how they operated their business. So I wanted to show you that. That's the headline that read when I read this article. This was posted on May the 2nd, was the first time I read this article. I just got a text from somebody. Oh, Dan said I'm too loud. I'll turn it down a little bit. Hopefully that's not too loud. If anyone else thinks I'm too loud. Anyway, rampant racial disparities plagued how PPP loans were distributed. I printed this 2 days ago to a PDF. I pulled it up today on my laptop so that I could show you the headline. They changed the headline since I printed it, and now it reads, businesses in majority white communities receive PPP loans at higher rates, analysis shows. Now, if you read the whole text of this article, the analysis does show that there are disparities. I'm not sure what other sort of statistics you could pull out to change the narrative or show that there were disparities out there. But it's interesting that the Los Angeles Times decided to change the headline. Obviously, after, if this went to real, I don't know if they still print a paper copy of their publication anymore, but if they did print it, then they couldn't change that, but they did change the online one. So I'm just going to show you that once again. Rampant racial disparities plagued how PPP loans were distributed in the United States. Change, and you can still see it still says that up here in this little box, if you can see that, but they changed it to be a little bit more positive. So let me get right into the gist of the article and what I found through this. So most of the article talks about this lady right here. She owns two clothing stores in, I believe it's Los Angeles on clothing boutiques in Los Angeles. So I'm gonna switch back over to me now and not the article. I know you like, look, oh, I could have done picture in picture. That's okay, I won't do that. So the reason that, so this lady owns two businesses in Los Angeles and was denied payroll protection funding. But right in the second or third paragraph talking about how she operates her business, she operates her business, in my opinion, my humble opinion, illegally. And let me explain how. She owns two retail shops, both sell clothing, and she has people working, a team of 6 people working inside the shop. But all 6 of those people are independent contractors. Now, this isn't an issue that just focuses on any demographic split that you could make. I literally just worked with a couple of customers on this exact topic over the last few weeks, trying to switch them from the right way of operating their business to the wrong way the other way around, from the wrong way to the right way. And there are several incentives for you to operate as in treating all your employees as independent contractors. I use the term employee because in this instance, if you're operating a retail establishment, there is zero chance you could justify to me or to the Internal Revenue Service, and especially the tax court, that those people were accurately treated as independent contractors. So the first problem with her getting a payroll protection loan is her workers were being paid as independent contractors. That is flat out 100% illegal. You cannot do that in this instance. And it's a very simple test. If you control what, when, and how they do their job, they're employees, period. End of discussion. There's no way around that. In this instance, she was operating it, in my opinion, illegally. Now, the payroll protection loan initially required that you have payroll. The whole idea behind the payroll protection loan was to keep people employed. Whether you were able to open your business or not open your business, the idea was to provide funding for you, essentially grant funding to you in order to continue paying your employees. If you had no employees, you obviously wouldn't qualify. That's not discriminating against people that don't have employees. It's discriminating against people that break the law, no matter their demographic data. It's discriminating against people that break the law. You just can't do it. So in that instance, that's what one of the things that happened to her, just treating not having employees. Now, the second thing that comes into play there, further down in the article, there were three main issues that were brought up in the article, was that the majority of this article claims the majority of minority-owned businesses are operated as sole proprietorships, and that's perfectly legal. It's great. I love it. It's simple. It's easy. It's easy to report on your tax return. And lots of businesses operate that way. I try to keep them operating that way until they get to the point where they're growing such that maybe they need the protection, send them to the lawyer to talk about the possible protections of having a corporate entity or an LLC, but it's perfectly legal. But Schedule C entities often have employees. If you operate a retail business, 100% you're going to have employees. So and the article actually says that Schedule C employers couldn't get PPP loans in the beginning in this article, in the beginning of the program when it was initially implemented. That's inaccurate as well, but the calculation did come from the net income of your Schedule C, not the gross income of your Schedule C. So I'm going to talk about that for a minute. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I give my customers when they're operating a business, when they ask me things like, I receive a lot of cash, how should I report it? Or I pay for things with cash, how should I report that? I always answer this way. Whatever money you receive, in whatever form you receive it, whether it's Bitcoin, cash, credit card, check, whatever it is, always report that as income on your business profit and loss statement, which will then flow to your tax return. There's several reasons to do that. The first reason is because it's the right thing to do. Report the income and expenses that are accurate and timely, because when you commit fraud on your tax return, it costs all the other taxpayers more money. So just don't do it. It's not the right thing to do. The second reason it's going to hurt you is if you ever need to go to the bank and get financing. I cannot tell you how many times I've had people tell me that they keep 2 sets of books. Generally, when someone keeps 2 sets of books and they tell me about it, I send them a disassociation letter that I no longer want to do business with them. So that's the second thing. You're going to get hurt if you ever need to borrow money, which in this instance, you're borrowing money. Payroll protection loan was a lending program. Then it's going to hurt you. The next way that it could hurt you by not accurately reporting the profit and loss of your business or fully reporting everything is if you ever want to sell your business. If you ever want to sell it, if I'm representing the buyer of your business, I'm going to want to look at an accurate picture of your business, a profit and loss statement, and the tax returns that match. If those two don't match, I will always tell my client, don't buy the business. There's something going on there. You're not going to get an accurate picture no matter how much cash they tell you to collect. If they didn't report it, they never collected it. And I've seen a lot of businesses go under because they're not accurately reporting their cash. They have no idea how profitable their business is. And the final way that you could get in trouble by not reporting everything is if you ever get audited. Very low risk of that, but it's something to keep in mind anyway, because the IRS or the Department of Revenue, if they come in, they might just make those numbers up if you don't report them, because it'd be very tough, even today when a lot of things don't pay, people don't pay with cash, to say that you have a small restaurant and you never receive any cash and never deposit any cash. Guarantee the Department of Revenue comes in and they audit your books. They're going to ask for more details and try and figure that out. So you're not going to be able to get it if you don't report everything accurately. So back to the payroll protection loan and how that affected businesses. If you didn't report all your income or overinflated your expenses, then your net income was zero or negative, then you weren't going to qualify for the PPP loan because it's based off payroll. And let me talk about the idea behind the calculation here, which actually makes sense to me. If I'm an employee, I get a paycheck. That's after all the other expenses that the business has paid for that year. They pay the employees, and that's the amount that I get. It's kind of the net. If I'm operating a Schedule C business, I'm not an employee of that business. What I live off of is the net income that I report on my tax return. So take the gross revenue minus the expenses, and it's the net. So it's the same exact calculation that I would have used originally. I would use, if I had any employees in payroll, would have added all those together. I could have applied for the payroll protection loan. That makes sense to me. That calculation I thought was justified and equal to a calculation utilizing payroll. Now, they did change that rule in the beginning of this year, and I saw several Schedule C businesses that had losses that couldn't apply in the first round, but then were able to apply because they changed it off of gross income of your Schedule C. So that changed the program significantly. In my opinion, it's not necessarily the right way to calculate it, but I did because it was legal to apply that way. I helped several businesses get those funds, and they got them relatively quickly and relatively easily. Okay, that's operating as a sole proprietor. I already talked about 1099s. If you control what, when, and how they do their job, you can't treat them as 1099s. You're actually hurting the employees because they have to pay half of the Social Security and Medicare tax that you're supposed to be paying as an employer. And that's part of the incentive to do it, right? You're pushing that burden off onto them. But at the end of the day, treating someone who should be an employee as an independent contractor is just wrong. You get in trouble with it. Sole proprietorships talked about how you need to report all the income and expenses. You can qualify. And if you can't now because it ran out of money, we haven't seen any talks of refunding the program. The final thing that they talked about in this article was that a lot of minority-owned businesses, and this got down in to a couple of restaurants further down in the article, it referenced them not having Social Security numbers. Okay, so if you don't have a Social Security number, it generally means you're not legally able to work in the United States. And I'm not going to get into the whole immigration debate or anything like that, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the legal ability to work in the United States, then you shouldn't be doing it. And you certainly shouldn't be getting funds that are meant to go, even if you're operating a small business, it's not legal to do that. You have to go through the proper channels. And I'll speak as a person that when I was 21, I moved to Singapore to live with my brother for a while. And while I was there, I wanted to work. It was very hard for me to be able to get permission. And at the end of the day, I'm not really sure if I did. It was 30 years ago, so I'm not sure if I got permission. But I can tell you this, I couldn't even initially get a visa to stay in the country longer than 2 weeks. I had to get on a train, ride to another country. Singapore's small, so it didn't take that long. But I had to get on a train, ride to another country, and come back through to get another stamp so that I could stay there 2 more weeks. And that's what they told me to do. That was the only legal way I could stay in that country longer than the 2-week period. I had to keep going back and forth. So if you want to do the same thing, do it the right way. I've helped several people get tax ID numbers. I've helped provide paperwork for sponsors to get legal immigration status. I've helped not resident aliens file tax returns and sell things. So there are legal ways to do these things. But certainly saying that the program is racial disparities in the program are because people are doing something illegal, to me, is not justifiable. And in my opinion, all three of the things that were listed in here are pretty much those three things being that I'm operating without proper documentation to be able to work in the United States, that I'm treating my people who should be employees as independent contractors. And the other thing was the sole proprietorship, which I said had been fixed and you could go back and apply, but it certainly didn't help in the beginning. But still, those calculations of the sole proprietorship, I think in the first round when they first made the rule, actually mirrored payroll, and that's what people would pay payroll taxes on. So I think that was more justified than the second round. All right, that was a lot to unpack. I've gone about 5 minutes over. All I wanted to talk, so I brought this to light because I wanted to point out some real issues outside of, in this particular article and these particular people, that they were kind of race baiting us and trying to divide the country on issues that we shouldn't be divided on. Remember, the most important, my favorite verse, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And always do that. And if you need assistance with your small business or you need help, there are free resources out there. There are people like me that'll give you a free half-hour consultation and explain to you the right way to do things, try and point you in the right direction, or try and find a way to help you. There are numerous other organizations, AARP and others, that help with free tax services. So there are lots of resources out there to find out how you do your business, how you should operate your business properly. And you could even watch Coffee with Carlson, and that would tell you how to operate your business properly. And maybe we'll get into a few more of those more in-depth calculations of some of these things later on. But I think I've already covered the independent contractor employee, and I've covered the reporting all your income. So we'll find something else fun to talk about next week. All right. Remember, love one another, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I think if we all lived that way, this world would be a much more happy, safe, and homeward environment. I know I'm a hugger, so when you see me, generally I'm going to reach out and hug you. Some people don't like that right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. Unless you tell me not to. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. That would probably be something like battery or assault, but I wouldn't want to go there. All right, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to go. I encourage you to read the article. If you have any follow-up questions with it, feel free to give me a call. If you want to get an appointment to find out how to operate your business effectively and legally, give us a call at Carlson Accounting, 863-382-4141. Check us out on the web at carlsonaccounting.com. You can even schedule an appointment right there, either virtual, in person, or on the phone. Whatever works best for you. We're here all the time just for you. Have a safe and happy day. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week on Coffee with Carlson.